Late. 3,
Hold on.
2. Too late. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I belong over there. 7 Circles. My name is Jonathan. Thank you for tuning in. I got a guest, my man Tonify, right here in the Mercy chair, looking fresh. How you feeling, man? Tone, how you feeling? You can hear me? Can you hear me? Not.
For the first time, you just broke up. Oh, thank you. How you doing today?
Good. I'm doing real good. There's a little bit of lag, but we're gonna work with it.
What did you say? It kind of broke up a bit.
Oh man, internet, man.
Oh no.
Tony.
All right. I made every third word, but I think sound like you said you're doing real good. We're dealing with a little bit of lag, and we're gonna work with it.
Cool. Just go ahead, man. Let's just get right into it, because obviously my situation, my technology isn't doing too good, but the people can hear you loud and clear. So how about we just go into it and we talk about self-deception versus self-reflection. I kind of got a whole lot to say about that. I know that you have some things to say about it as well too. I think that the time that we are in right now, 2024, about to enter a new cycle, the Kali Yuga, the Age of Aquarius, whatever you call it. Information is everywhere. Weather conditions are abnormal. People are abnormal. Politics are abnormal. Everything is just up in the air. And there's just so much information from all different sides. And I think that, well, I'm speaking for myself, is that I have deceived myself a lot of times, I've deceived myself thinking that, I'm something that I'm not, right? And, I deceived myself by thinking like, oh, wow, I'm this spiritual dude, right? I got it all, right? And then sometimes, the universe or Mother Nature got to smack you back down and put you in your place and have you actually start reflecting on your life. Last year, 2023, the year of the 7, which is a good year for self-reflection, spiritual year. Like this year is the year of the 8. Definitely a lot of self-reflection, and I definitely realized that we're all the same, more or less. Like, nobody's really real bad, nobody's really real good. Everybody's pointing fingers and blaming, but I think the best thing that we could do as a collective is the self-reflection part. And this gets broken up into so many different avenues and fabrics, and unfortunately we can't have the dialogue back and forth because my internet access. So I'm just gonna go ahead and pass the ball or pass the baton over to you, and I want you to just lay out this dissertation or presentation, and just kind of talk to the people and work your magic.
Okay. All right. So, self-deception versus self-reflection. For me, it takes both of those to come together to create balance. What I know about myself today, people give me a lot of compliments on how I appear on the outside to them, on how I treat them most of the time, and the way I carry myself and how I verbalize. And I always ask them, do you really have the time to know what makes me smile? Because if they really knew, it's all my smile comes from all the pain that I received from people, places, and things without judgment. And when I talk to other people and they'll tell me about the things they judge, like evil, things that are bad, crime, the disposition of humanity, and I give them kindred smile, and I'm honestly able to say it was from all of those sorrows that allowed me to have a heart to love you today. I am self aware because of internal conflict. That's different than self delusion. Self delusion is, for me, is imagining or pretending to be all put together. For me, in like a kumbaya state, just living in bliss where I'm unbothered by environmental factors and uh, and different psychological developments, like my childhood or trauma that I've seen, witnessed, or occurred, or partook in, or the stigma of being a melanated Aboriginal human being born in America. Um, it's the difference in the adversity and the diversity that I believe helps me to be responsible for my life. And that gives me the opportunity to know how to shift between the levels from operating in flesh with the carnal mind or operating in spirit. And the difference between operating in spirit or operating in flesh with the carnal mind is the difference between, for me, self reflection and self delusion. What's your take on that?
Digesting, man. That was a lot right there. You definitely said a lot. Sometimes you don't know, and you don't know what you don't know. And sometimes we could be so influenced. You talked about childhood things, but sometimes we could be so influenced, maybe since childhood, that we're living a certain type of way, and we see things a certain type of way, and we think that that is the only way. We think that that's the way it's supposed to be. That that because it's become so familiar. So I'm saying that in regards to self-reflection and self deception or delusion. Um, as I ask a lot of people, why didn't you do so and so? Why did you do so and so? I was never told. Nobody told me, and I'm like, oh, somebody has to tell you. But if you're brought up in an environment or around a bunch of people where all you know is one side, how do you really know what is self deceiving, self deception? If you only know one side, if ever since a child, because you got some babies, man, like man, they get slapped on the butt, they get given, a little something inside of them. They get some sugar water. Maybe they get formula. If you look inside of what's that formula, and then they're given, all of the other bad stuff, and then you get put through the system of brainwashing. It's like, does the soul, right? Does it does it actually penetrate through all of that murk and mire, or is it so numb and so is it so numb and numb, or just basically like watered down that it can't even speak, that you can't even hear it. You feel what I'm saying?
That's why I say there's, for me, there's levels to it between deception and delusion. So, like, level one is um, the baby in me, the inner child. How am I when I'm not getting my way? Am I obnoxious? Am I loud? Am I aggressive? Do I manipulate? Do I try to control? And, and do I put others down? The answer, if you catch me on a day when I'm tired, angry, or lonely, or will I say tired and lonely for me, and or hungry leads to angry. And if I'm 3 out of those 4,
Angry.
the illusional me, the person who's going to pretend he's in control, knowing I'm not. And because I'm not, that's when the carnality of my behavior personifies itself. And really, when that happens, it's me saying I'm scared. Growing up with
Tom, we lost them. No, man. I have not been having the best success today with doing live streams. This is the second live stream on the second channel that I try to live stream today, and we had some issues. Hopefully Tony comes back. Let me just send him a quick text message. Let me actually put this up, y'all, because now I'm all exposed, my whole ghetto setup. Actually, I'll leave it. But let me text Tone and see if he can get back on. Okay, here he is. Okay, perfect. Maybe he lost battery power or something like that. But I do appreciate you beautiful people for tuning in today and supporting the channel. Also, follow Tony. Follow Tone on Instagram. It's Tonified for life. And if you look down at the band, that's his info right there. Yeah, I appreciate you. I don't know what happened, man, but welcome back.
It's all good. I held my thought. Say or how to do things from the place of centeredness. That's not what I was taught growing up. I was taught how to act like a fearful. That's what I know. When feeling intimidated or in a vulnerable space, or feeling like my worth or my value doesn't matter, especially when I do things with good intent. That's just me being honest. Now, on a good day, you won't see any of that. You'll see this more like a godlike being that just shines through adversity. But as I set to approve and be self-approved to myself, I know I'm not really the best me until you can pour gasoline on me and light me with a match. And then I sit down Indian style and laugh.
Yeah.
That's when I'm coming to completion, a real mastery of being the spiritual being that I know I can be. So why I'm saying that is my arrested psychological development comes like a pattern 8 in the universe. And everything that I haven't learned will then quantify itself and re-objectify itself to me like a stage. And it'll play a drama and continually bring me the same problems until I learn how to resolve them peacefully. And because of that, I got 7 words that I wrote down with the definitions for this channel, 7 circles, which to me represents the 7 spirits of Elohim, which is the great manifestation of God in man, in me and in you, that brings us together And
Yeah.
I wanted to break down the personification of who we really are, who we have been, and who we should grow and strive to not be like within ourselves.
Beautiful. Yeah, I want to know the 7 magical words, man. Talk to me about them. You hear me?
Well, since we're talking about, I heard you. Since we're talking about um, self-reflection versus self-deception that leads to self-delusion, the first word I thought should naturally be self. Who are you? You know, who am I? And self agent in man or woman that is responsible for the individual thoughts and actions of the nature of a person, which endures to unify the relationship with the inner being based on knowledge and value of one's experience of the inner and outer presence. So a lot of people say, we the number 3 represents the Trinity in us, the Trinity in man. And I was speaking to you earlier, and you was talking about me, myself, and I. I would say me is the self, and then there's also the true self. I now know is the I. So I'm going to break down the I as to who am I. True self is the spontaneous, authentic experience, feeling of being alive based on non-contradictory actions and words that are spoken, which is in thought and also in literal action. This self implies the removal of all falsehood and superficial false activities that separate from the dualism. This with God in man or woman, free from ego or imagination. So, as I said earlier, the first self is the endure and the unify. That's like stage 1, as if man came into the world like a caterpillar and had to go into a moth or a chrysalis to then become a butterfly or a moth. A little bit more about true self is the true self of a person will take off the mask of idealism and fake reality connected to the emotional personalities, and is able to be vulnerable and in full truth with humility, progressively moving toward perfection. There's one more person inside me, and if you reflect with the Trinity, there's possibly one more person inside you. And I don't mean you, Jonathan, but I'm talking about you, the viewer, you out there at home. That other one is myself. I gotta watch out for myself, because myself, I think, can sometimes be the enemy known as the inner me. The myself, I like to reflect to known as the ego. And he also is a trinity. He's called the unholy trinity. Ego is the sense of emotionally attached self through senses, which is to see, to hear, to smell, to taste, and to touch. And his purpose, self gratification. He goes by another name called the ID. This is how a person identifies. Once upon a time, I used to identify as Shady Tone, or my stage name, Little Ganja. These were the masks that I used to put on because I wanted you to see me a certain kind of way, okay? The identification, the ID. Yeah, because my brother, he's the spliff. So I'm Little Ganja. Now it's just Reverend Ganja. It's 2 words. A-N, capital G, J-A-H. It means one who gives enlightenment. I'm the lyrical doja. One hit from this lyrical spliff, and I'll have you high like a gift. You feel me? All right now. See, that's the myself. You saw how I switched up, and then whole myself just got like, watch out for that guy. He's a fly guy, though. He's a fly guy in reason when he's balanced. Now, the myself likes to use the false persona and loves pronouns like he, she, it, them, they, or gender or non-binary references. Now that just seems to be the thing in the 2020s. The government has given us a restructure so that I, if I chose to, by choice, could identify with myself, who another word from myself is the devil in me. So I could be just as demonic as I want to be and a self-righteous, hoping that you will value me because I'm going to give myself a title that separates me from the true self and then get mad if you don't worship me and my title. That's what I see going on. I'm just speaking about what I see. So the difference in that is that can go to the third part of, so myself is broken into two pieces too. There's the lower myself and the higher myself. Myself is known as the super ego, which combined is the three falsehoods of man. The super ego is based on desires and feelings of taking the ID self of oneself and then using that mask to gain or material, which usually ends up, for me, it takes me to chaos and confusion. For every time I've been locked up, inebriated, or caused harm to another individual or myself, it's because my super ego took the ID of me on a run, and we went full ego. And the way it works for me is it always comes like a small whisper that sounds like God. And it tells me this is spiritual. I'm going to protect you. And it's almost like it comes in so it can be worshiped. And as soon as that happens, at that moment, I am no longer in that moment the God in me. I'm the healer self, the spiritual self, and now ready to objectify whoever or whatever it is in war. That's when I get ready to take myself to war. And what's good or bad about that is we have to destroy before we can build. So it was from war that I learned all my lessons. It was from the mistakes that I now call missteps that allowed me to be vocal today and to really be in true love, to love and identify with somebody else, a stranger or a person I may know, and to better love them through knowing that today I don't want to cause harm. So I'm not saying that the three personalities of myself in the ego are bad, because I don't believe anymore in so much as bad or good. And I do understand that it took evil for me to evolve. The thing is, how long do I want to stay in it? That's what we're here to talk about today. How long do me or you want to be stagnant, forward and up and out from within? And when I'm moving in the three minds of myself and the ego, that doesn't allow me to grow much. And one of the reasons that is because my ego feeds off of confidence. That's the next word, by the way. Today, I'm going to call it the word of the day. And if this was Pee Wee's Playhouse, we go, ah, every time somebody says confidence. Ah! Let me pause for a minute, though. What's your take on what we just talked about? Self, true self, and ego.
It makes me think about it makes me think about and I mentioned this on my channel the other day, those that are following. It makes me think about distraction and how we look at the word distraction is really dis and then it's track. And track is short for attraction. So traction means to move forward, and distraction means that you're moving backwards or you're being stagnant. You're being, um, you're in neutral. You're like parked. And so it's like that's what popped up in my mind when I automatically thought about distraction, and that it just broke apart. But another thing that popped up, because I've done a lot of extreme things in my life. I mean, I've lived in the woods for 2 months, pretty much fasted the whole time. That's like 14 years ago in 2008. Um, and I fasted on this YouTube channel for 14 days, right? I went a long time, doing semen retention, right? But through all of these things, going in the woods, semen retention, fasting, whatever, a lot more things that I've done. It's crazy because at the very last moment, like for instance, with fasting, when I fasted for 14 days, I was supposed to go for 100 days. But on day 14, after doing a long walk, I came inside and inside of my head was like, let's get something to eat. And the voice came really fast. And I'm like, yeah, let's get something to eat. And I was strong. I planned on going a long time, but that voice came like, let's get something to eat. And I was like, yeah, let's go and get something to eat. Like when I did that semen retention thing for a long time, not being with any women or whatever. Uh, One day it just came to me like, yo, let's go and have some fun and let's hook up with this girl. And even living in the woods, it was like, I'm ready to leave. Let's leave. These things weren't planned out. Like, okay, on this day we're gonna leave. Like it's final right here. It kind of happened spontaneous. And then when I engage in those activities, uh yeah, my power is taken away, right? The minute I automatically engage in a sexual activity, my power is taken away. Or if I'm eating, from fasting a long time, my power is taken away. So it's funny the way that you described it, and the way that you described the ego, the higher self and the lower self, but also the different stages, because that does resonate with me. It does.
Well, I said saying earlier, the ego feeds on the my idea to believe in power. My ego needs a power. It feeds on me. It's a part of me, but out of balance, it is like I say, the devil in me. Or I won't say the devil. I'll say the darker side of me that will project itself and then try to feed on situations, circumstances, fear, negativity, and other people. A lot of that for me comes from the uneducation of the American that taught me to be confident. I was taught how to spell against myself in learning the English language and in learning Western ideology that personifies it was big cars, fast cars, slim waist, and big butts. Louis Vuitton, Gucci, Guess, Fendi, Prada, yada, 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 yada. That's all material and that's attachment. And that is to feed myself. So, what's cool about that to be and what I don't want and who I don't want to be around. So, for everybody I know, thank you for showing me myself. You, I got to see the things about me I didn't like. That the difference of self-reflection, self-deception, and self-delusion. I would be delusional to think when I got a problem with you, it's your fault. No, 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 no. When I got a problem with you, it's our fault, but it's my fault on how I judge it. Because as soon as I judge, it's me seeing a part of me that I don't like about myself. That's the separation from the illusion of delusion and disillusion, which disillusion means to not have a solution. It means something that can't be dissolved. It's like putting sand in this bottle of Fever Tree premium Indian tonic water that should be paying us because I'm having it on screen. And then hoping that the sediments gravitate to the bottom and then the water's still clean. When you harm me, if I harm you back, that's me now taking on the harm. You might be free from that. And not you, Jonathan, but you, the people out there. And the fact that I'm gonna get to the con word and it'll break this down. So con, it means to persuade someone or to believe something deceptive. Confidence. It's to persuade someone to believe something that isn't real. Let's say the name T. Shaw, which sounds like lame, or the name Too Short, which sounds really pimpy, like, right? You know what I'm saying? Pimp. Your name is T. Shaw, homie. You're not, and you are short. No disrespect to the OG, but he's got a name on Too Short Boulevard. It should be T. Shaw Boulevard, which is the self. But my man's got a street named after myself, which is the #1 street in America for prostituting young women under the age of 14. And I find that offensive that people clap and cheer for that. You know what I mean? Because they're in love with myself and they've been conned to have been spelled against. Somebody has put you and I in a trance us to agree with false belief of bullcrap that governs our lives through emotions and senses, man. And now we got a bunch of young people lost, souls lost, men and women, to get money for material things. And we celebrate it on the boulevard like that's the thing to do, man. And it's not the thing to do.
Tony.
The other part of the word confidence is FI. Yeah.
No, go ahead and finish your definition because I don't want to interrupt it. But I'll ask this question after you're done.
All right. So FI is a square iron or a wooden pin that takes weight on top of a mass when stepping on something that can pass through it like a pin, which it has to first plant itself into parts and splits apart so that it can become one. That's what happens to the ego when it takes us on an ego trip. Every time it crashes and we harm someone else, we then break apart inside and become less than whole. The last part of the word confidence is dense. It's a thick, difficult, impenetrable force, compacted, crowded, and is usually opaque. It's something that has the ability to have little light that flows through it. It is the opposite of transparent. It's obscure and difficult to understand, non-comprehensible. So when I confide in myself as being the one, the G, the this, the that, and anytime I do that without acknowledging Christ who strengthens me, I'm practicing false humiliation and I'm talking out of the strength of my mask. How that looks in Black America is a person usually walking with a gant, a lamp, and an extra cool to them, because this ain't how I was born to walk. You know what I'm saying? If my pants is hanging down too low, now I like a little sad, don't get me wrong. I'm from the streets, man. But when I overdo things and I extreme things to normalize the brokenness in me so that you love it, that is a man who is confident, which means, in my opinion, a false opinion of one's power and the power that was given to us by God being misused and abused for the power to govern the imaginaries of others, which is not self-reflection, but it's definitely self-deception. And that's what leads into self-delusion, which means to be asleep, if you didn't know that, by the way.
So
what was
I'm
you gonna
happy
say,
that
my
we're
man?
having this. I'm happy that we're having this conversation, and I appreciate you being vulnerable with the audience. And I think that being vulnerable is definitely a place where power comes in. There's a lot of power in being vulnerable, a lot. That's how you move crowds, man. My thing is this. I know that there's a plight in our community. There's a plight in, just the human family, right? But like talking specifically about, like our culture, our upbringing, where we come from. I know that there are issues and that there are things that we need to work on and improve. My thing is this, right? I know that 90% of negative emotions arrive whenever someone blames, right? Like if I say, "Oh, this girl did so and so to me," now I got a negative emotion that's rising up. Maybe it's pain, maybe it's this, maybe it's whatever. But and I know that when we blame somebody, that we automatically get trapped in victim mentality. And I know that to be a victim is to be caught in the drama triangle of having a victim, a prosecutor, and then a rescuer, right? A victim, a prosecutor, and then a rescuer, and it's caught in that triangle. And for the longest in my life, I've never been a victim, but especially in a lot of my intimate relationships, I unconsciously took the role of a rescuer. Oh, let me rescue you. And just by me taking that role as a rescuer, I automatically enter into the drama triangle. And I was trying to figure out, why is there drama, right? I'm not a victim. I'm not a prosecutor, but I was the rescuer. So I was still part of that trinity, that triangle. So what I'm saying is, as the community, just as people,
Wow.
as human beings, how do we address a plight? How do we address something that is inharmonious to us without being caught in the web of blaming? Because then we're going to have a whole cascade of negative emotions that are going to follow. And how do we do it without being a victim? Because honestly, Tone, I'm so over it. This slavery, this happened, that happened. Most of the story is not real. First of all, most of the story is fake. And then the part that does have some validity to it, I know it. How many times do I have to know it, and how many times are you going to say it over again? Like, we got to move forward. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, I know I'm kind of like spazzing a little bit, but I kind of want you to speak on that if you understand where I'm coming from. How do you see
No,
that, and
that's
how
perfect.
you
You're perfect.
address it?
What you just spoke on is very, very, very perfect and right on time. It also leads to the very next word, which I'm sure you probably didn't know that because you don't know what order I'm going to say these in. That lets me know that there's a higher power that's channeling greatness in you. And you also spoke on something that is the greatest challenge to me as a shaman, minister, and healer. I've been caught as the prosecutor and the victim because I got trapped in every net I've ever been in when I was playing Captain Sabo.
Happens, man.
Oh,
It happens. It happens.
yes.
It happens, man.
Excuse me for my language, but when
Right.
I try to play God in other
Right.
people's lives and thought I was the power with the great mind and just great ideas.
Right.
Man, that was really the devil catching me up in my own web. And then I was broken apart, shattered in pieces and pieces. I'm still healing with the trauma from the karma that I put out in the world. And that's just natural. It happens. You just reminded me of something that I read today. I actually read my Bible. I got the Holy Bible online, and it's funny because it was talking about coming to God just as you are, and it also talked about the relativity of the diversity and adversity that Christ came to make us one. Not that we should be one without identity as to our culture, our upbringing, our family, or our roots, or the purpose with the intent of where life has taken us, but to be in one in the spirit, which then deflects the insanity from the tangled web that we weave that was woven, which is, I call that the super consciousness of the world. It's like the dark web. It's like with a spider that just wants to put me in a net. I don't properly use the right discernment when dealing with people, places, and things. And it only happens when I give of myself without having proper boundaries. And that just happened to be the next word, boundaries. So let me break that down for my folks out there. The first part of boundaries is the word bound. It means to be stuck, immovable, and localized in one region of space and time or limited space. It means to bind, like a contract, which is like what it is to be spelled on, or to be unbound, to and be chained, or to be unchained as related to justice. So bound can go, it can go both ways. Kind of like a person with dual sexualities or a dual-minded person. It can go both ways, like a magnet. It can polarize positivity or negativity, and it also has the opportunity to be neutral, meaning when I'm homeward bound, that means everything I do is by the heart and it's in light with the perfect intention. That's a good bound. Or when I say I'm bound to Christ Jesus who strengthens me, the inner child of me, the personification of God in me, the light in me. That's a proper way to have a bound, right? But I could be out of bounds, like in basketball, and you pass it real fast, you throw the rock, and your boy don't get it, and then it goes out of bounds, and now the ball's got to go to the other team, and they get a chance to take it down the floor one more time. It also means to, so that's bound, right? The other half of bound comes to us from the word Aries. Yeah. Aries is the personification and deity of Mars. Yeah. And Mars is the personification of the sacral chakra. Yeah, that's right here on the body. That governs my sexuality. That governs my fear. That governs my family. That governs my financial stability. And it governs the thoughts of adulting. It also connects to this part in the heart, right above the heart, called the thyroid, in conjunction with the thymus and the vagus nerve, and governs the and also it is the governor of the upper 5 chakras above it, right? Because each one is a father of itself. And Aries is Latin for Ram or Rama, which if anybody studied the Bhagavad Gita, that's another name for the Lord Savior, in my opinion, the Christ that is in me, the super Christ consciousness. But you also got another word we might have not heard of, Ram, like RAM in your computer it's what holds the space and all the data, right? But it comes from the word mul apin. Mul apin, which means to rise from or within the equinox, or to rise in sunlight with precision. So when you're rising and you're rising towards the light, in the light, that means you're coming something, which usually means darkness for me. And since we've been talking about the seven personifications of the mind, body, and spirit, the Elohim within, the seven circles, man, you got the perfect channel, man. I love your channel. So I had to pause just to reflect on the seven circles. So we're rising from without of the ego of myself. And when I use proper boundaries, without proper boundaries, I go to war. And anybody I fight myself. But with proper boundaries, which is also associated with the Kemetic God Amun Ra, which means to be reborn. It's also called the Godhead and fertility of creativity. When I am properly bound within the greater consciousness of myself, that Christ within, that means I have the ability to be disciplined. And when I move in discipline, I don't allow myself to get caught in traps. I don't allow myself to live life without pause when I'm emotionally not balanced, hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. Because when I do, for everyone I harm, and when I point that finger and judge, it's coming back to me with a grudge. And I do it so often, but I'm really quick to forgive. I'm really quick to ask for forgiveness. And I'm really quick to then love others. Yeah. And I'm now learning how to be quick to love myself, because that ability is what takes me out of self-judgment, out of the illusion of self-deception. And it brings me to the last word, which is reflection, self-reflection, which, Minister Tone L just got my EIN for Nature's Healer and Self-Reflection Center and Temple of Indigenous Science. We're moving to Watsonville, looking to open up a church there. And we hope to do much, much work in the greater community of the East Bay once we get built. But right now, we got to build proper boundaries. Mm-hmm. So the last word within the seven circles is reflection. Anytime I do the right thing, I come back to reflection. Anytime I do the wrong thing, I come back to reflection. The reason is because I need to be neutral. And we're going to talk about neutrality before I finish this word. Read means to do again, like the word religion. It means to do over and over and over again. Flex, yeah, it's a word. Y'all know flex, like flexing. It's like flexion. It means to bend or to flex at the root. The word of quality of transformation, and is in bending like the will. The will can flex. When I properly have boundaries in Christ consciousness, that means I surrender. And when I surrender to the greater I that is in me, instead of surrendering to myself, which is the lower, then the I in me can rise. And that's in the willpower, also connected to the solar plexus and the spleen chakra, which governs the heart. Its color is yellow, which means joy. When they talk about the joy of the Lord is my strength, that's why we reflect. Because in reflecting, it allows us to be adaptable, able to turn back and forth in the mind like a wheel. There's also something in the Catholic Bible called Maccabeus. And if you read Maccabeus 12:12 in all four books, it talks about the human being who, once he reaches his final stage to enroll into the school of karma, he gets put on something called Ezekiel's wheel. It's when the seven circles of the chakras come out of alignment and we're bound to this wheel that spins us around and around and around again until we learn peace from all that we are suffering. The last part of the word reflect is and there's one word left after this. I apologize. So I missed the word. It's ion. It means with electrical charge, the light in the center of a particle to be positive or positive depending on action. Ion represents duality depending on intention. It shifts and can then reshift. And I got an I spelled EYE, and my eye is always on the prize, and I don't have shifty eyes. You meet someone with a shifty eye, back that. That's someone who's possibly thinking to plot. And if they wink, that's a plot for sure. And I got these things from Proverbs. I used to read, there's a proverb for every day of the month. There's 31 of them. And by reflect within myself. I'm gonna pause before the last word. The last word is spirituality. But we just went over the word boundaries and the word reflection, and I want to see what your take is on those two words, my friend.
Yo, let's start with reflection, man. Yeah, it was awesome the way that you broke it down. I definitely received.
And also, did I answer your question?
You did. You did. Yeah, the way you broke it down, man, I received a lot from it. Um, reflection is interesting because I said something about reflection today. I said, man, I feel like I'm actually starting to be myself. This was this morning. I was like, and I lost a lot of people in 2023, not physically, but friends and relationships. And I'm like, well, you know what? The only thing that I did was I cleaned off the dirt inside of me. And because of that, I'm just cleaning off the fingerprints, the dirt on the mirror. That is my true self. So as we all do that, we all clean this dirt off of the mirror. We start becoming a reflector. And the other people, when they see me, they see you. Like when I see you, I literally see myself, and I know it's reciprocated. Um, it's just where we're vibrating at. But like even with the chakras, you talked about the seven chakras. The chakras are actually reflectors. I don't know if people know that. A lot of people might think that the chakras are just light, but they're actually reflectors of the light that's already inside of us. Um, so it just makes me think a lot, man, about reflection, and that's really all life is. Like people, I would say this a lot when I was 18. They'd be like, "Oh my God, I love your eyes." Or, "Oh, I love this about you. You're so this, you're so that," and I'd be like, "Hey, I'm just a reflection of you." That was like my little spiritual line or whatever. Hey, I'm just a reflection of you. But it's true. It's true. We're only attracting, ourselves and a reflection of ourselves. So that was interesting. And then you talked about boundaries, man. I mean, yeah, man. Boundaries is important. One thing that I learned about boundaries, especially when it comes to relationships, business, personal, uh, intimate, whatever, father, son, father, daughter, mother, son, mother, daughter, is that you teach people how to treat you. So if I teach somebody to treat me any type of way that I don't have any boundaries, that's how people are going to treat me. But if I teach people to treat me in a way to whereas if I'm projecting these are my boundaries, people are going to respect them right off of the bat. And I think that if we want people to respect our boundaries, then we need to set them up initially and let them know so that it could be, acknowledged.
That's good. I heard that to set up a boundary isn't for you to know it, it's for me to live it. And when I live it,
Mm,
automatically there's a wall that you can't cross. When I'm in tune with my higher self, in alignment with the will of God that lives in me. See that's what flows through us. What flows through us, it's called
you're good, man.
currency. Now, to current, it means to direct, to move. And then you got sea, which is water. It also means sight. So when we
Right.
talk about the sea, SEA, you can swim in it, but you can also visualize it. And not only that, you can breathe it in. We're in the sea of emotions. And what we're being challenged by is the 7 emotions. The 7 circles are a symbol of the 7 beatitudes of man. And in duality, it's a symbol of the 7 deadly emotions of man, which are reflected by the 7 deadly sins, which is greed, gluttony, lust, adultery, or adultery, murderous intent from thought, a lowly thought of self, meaning not to be confident in the Christ within, or to be confident, which is a lowly idea of self, because you can be too confident or you cannot be confident enough. But we're supposed to be neutral, right? And then there's sloth, and then there's vanity or arrogance or narcissism. And those are the 7 deadly woes of man. That's what the 7 circles represent in the Quran, the Circle 7 Quran, and the Holy Bible, and the Taoist, and 5 element theory. We can go on and on. So
it gets deep.
But definitely. Deep. So the last word we got is spirituality. I want to say it a little funnier. I used to watch South Park, and I used to like how the little fat kid talked. What's his name? Cartman.
Yeah.
And every time anything with the E on it, he always like. So if he was saying it, he'd be like spirituality. You know what I'm saying? Like he was saying it with an AY on it. But spirit is the animating or vital principle or essence in man or animal. Spirit is the process of reformation of soul, vigor, breath, and ghost within soul. And spirit is to breathe life, and spirit is life breathed in man, which leads to true courage. Spirit is enlightenment, or one who is seeking enlightenment as a pure person or a person progressing towards perfection. The U before ality, and we could I could have did al as in the word all, but I didn't want to break it down too much. So instead of using all before the liti or itty, because itty isn't really a word, but ality is the root of most words that set most words into action, right? So the U is spelled with a U, but anytime you hear you, add a OU to it, because it's you. And it's me. It's the personification. You is to make personal. And you can be personal as me, or it can be personal as myself, which is me in second person, or it can be I, which is myself in third person. See, we're 3 people in one, regardless what they want to tell us. But the truth is, we're only one person when we cleanse the karma and the being within. This is the temple of the body of the God in man. So we are the church, people. So you is the personification of me, myself, and I. So the ality, it's to have ownership or to identify of a word that leads to a condition of a state of being with an attachment. So when I say spirituality, for me, I change the whole word, because I understand to practice spirituality is to practice reality. So I call it spiritual reality. The re isn't in there, but it's something I do over and over. I wake up, I pray. The first thing I do when I wake up, I turn on praise and worship music. The first thing I do when I wake up, usually 6 out of 7 days, I might switch it up and throw rock or gospel rap or something else in there, depending on my intention. Do I intend to surrender that day, or do I intend to go to war that day? If I'm going to go to war that day, I'm probably going to play some really hardcore spiritual gangster rap. If I plan to be neutral that day, I'm going to play some rock, some jazz, or some reggae. And if I plan to just go with the flow, it's praise and worship as soon as I wake up. So I create my own spiritual reality by breathing, staying connected to breath, staying grounded, and understanding what my virtues are and my principles. I've been working since 2 years ago to practice 7 principles a day. Those 7 principles are patience, kindness, tolerance, love for self, love for others, non-judgment, and this last one is to be kind. I'm having a hard one with patient and being kind. To that patient and be kind also means to be slow to speak and quick to listen. And I got a problem with listening. Uh, I'll just be honest, and I'm not putting myself down.
Don't we all?
I didn't grow up in an environment where I was heard. And when I grew up as a child, if you asked me how I was doing and I told you the truth and there was any emotion involved with it, one of those 7 emotions, I got my ass whipped. You know, I got beat for having an opinion. I got beat for asking questions. That's how I learned how to judge, because I never learned how to think. To understand my emotions, to have clarity, to not be objectified and to not be traumatized for having a feeling, is to then understand a feeling and know that feelings come and go. They're not real.
Exactly.
They're just stories that are flowing through me, and I can attach to them or I can let them go. But
and the temporary.
I'm 43. They're temporary. I'm 43 now, and I'm just now living life 6.5 years without alcohol and drugs, and currently am no longer smoking marijuana for recreational use, and will only smoke ever again for spirituality when commanded to do so as a shaman and high priest of my Lord and Savior. If he tells me, she tells, because my God is a woman, if she tells me, I need you to go and look inside your mind to help solve this problem for so-and-so, or a church matter or a deep soul matter, then I'm going to do it. But when I'm on prohibition right now because I abuse nature. But when I get permission to partake back in marijuana, it's going to be edible only, because this temple of mine is to be sanctified. And these lungs, they need to be filled with breath, spirit, and they need a chance to heal. Right now, I'm on some natural tobacco because I'm still dealing with the psychic attacks that I had while I was abusing the marijuana. So I'm healing in retrospect, and I got a few pacifiers. But to truly be on a totem pole, standing alone with God and my higher self, is to not have any pacifiers, right? And what that means is to actually be able to feel that presence of fear when some type of karma, or let me pause. I got something right here from Ecclesiastes 9, and it says 9, 11, and 12. Says, again, I looked throughout the earth and saw that the swiftest person does not always win the race, nor the strongest man the battle, and that wise men are often poor, and skillful men are not necessarily famous. But it is by chance, by happening to be at the right place at the right time. I'm going to read that part again. It is by chance, by happening place at the right time. That's actually when success comes. Success is the combination of time and place coming together. That's actually what we call a miracle. So I'm a miracle, and you're all miracles to me. As a miracle, we need to understand this right here. 12 says, a man never knows when he's going to run into bad luck. He is like a fish caught in a net, or a bird caught in a snare.
Yeah, it's true, man. It could be around the corner. You don't know. You don't know. And last year, 2023, a lot of learning. You know, I want to say this about spirituality, is that when I look at it, I see the word ritual in there. Ritual. I see spirit, SP. What is spirit? Spirit, SPER. Spirit, right? Is it spirituality? Am I right? It's better when I write it down.
Spirit comes from the word spirit, which means intuition. It means to have higher intuition. So it actually means to hear, to receive insight from that which is divine. SPIRI.
So so this is what I see when I see spirituality. I see the word ritual. You know, RITUAL. Ritual. I see the word ritual, and then I also see SPI for like spirit. So when I see SPI, I think of spirals, and I think of energy. I think of nothing in the universe moves like it has energy, moves in a straight line. Like that's why these like if you take a nail, a zinc nail, and you wrap copper around it, and then connect it to the battery, you automatically got a magnet. It makes a magnet. We know the magnets like the electromagnetic or whatever, and so it's interesting that even like they say, Jesus says, my thoughts are spirit and my words are flesh. So spirit are like currents. They're invisible to the eye, right? Tesla said the minute man studies the unseen phenomena, we'll learn more in 10 years than we did in all the years of science combined, right? Just by studying the unseen phenomena for 10 years, we'll learn more. So spirit is big, right? Spirit comes before everything. Spirit comes before the plants and all that stuff. So when I see spirituality, right, then I see ritual. Ritual, I'm thinking to me is like something you do over and over again. It's a ritual. It's like Christmas is a ritual, or brushing your teeth or something like that. So I'm like, and this is really just spiritual, not the reality part. But spirituality is kind of like a way of life. It's like a way of life, but to constantly be in chameleon or in communication with the unseen, with the higher forces. And I think that would be someone who is spiritual, and that could express itself in many different ways. The final product of that could mean that I got a feather coming out of my head, or the final product of that could be it could be my head wrapped up looking like a bee cove, you know what I mean? Or it could be rocking a shirt that says Jordan, and it depends, because it expresses itself different in every individual. But that's how I see it. But I really think it's just about the truth. The truth is synonymous with the truth. It's synonymous with God. It's synonymous with love. It's synonymous with things that don't change. Because I think that anything that changes is Maya, illusion, and that which is permanent is truth. It's God. Is spiritual. Is life. You feel me?
I agree.
Cool.
I definitely. That's why I when I think of the word spirituality, I add the word "re" in it, because it's me creating my reality. It's spiritual reality.
Spiritual reality.
The artist is missing. I actually believe that word is misspelled.
Yeah.
The reason I say that is because do you know how how we're able to see each other right now?
Say it again.
You know how we're seeing each other? You know how we are able to see each other and talk to the world through this computer? So there's the World Wide Web. They got this from the Hindu Bible called the Bhagavad Gita. That's, in my opinion, how the internet was made. And I can kind of prove it for some people who are up there and sense of self, higher self. The World Wide Web is actually Ma'at. She gives us what's called the intraweb. That's the dark space matter that floats through time and space, that never changes, doesn't have any time, doesn't grow old. It's pure darkness, but from it comes all life and light. Then you have what's called a web browser. The web browser is like the deity of any religion. Its job is to be your guide and take you through the search bar. The search bar then helps you to find what it is that you're looking for. And so through the deity's job is, if you look up something you're not supposed to on the web, Google will be like, alert, alert. You're about to click, and this could, might be child porn, or just want to throw that out there. But it lets you know that something bad is about to happen. And then when something good is about to happen, it gives you a green check. And it's like, ooh, come here. And then it'll even ask if you want to save that, right? So its job is to break down that which you are looking for through the mother, which is the World Wide Web known as Ma'at. And see, the way it works is like the browser acts like the third eye. When you roll the two eyes in the back of the head and taking a breath of spirit, and you're practicing the ritual of coming into divine conscience with the great mother and whoever it is that saved you, I call him Christ, but I ain't trying to put my religion on nobody. But I'm just saying, you roll that eye in the back of the head and get to breathing, you enter into Ma'at, into the dark matter of the brain, which is called the duodenum. It's the currency that flows through the middle of the center of the skull that then drips something called melanin. And that is the electrolyte. Man.
I just put a video up today talking about the power of our eyes, literally today, and how what we focus on, we're sending our energy there. So like I was talking about how if a man finds a part of a woman attractive, he looks at it, right? All of a sudden he becomes excited, right? And that's a direct correlation of what I'm talking about, of how we look at something, and then where our attention goes, energy flows. And so when we look at certain parts of our body, like our eyes are directly connected to our brain. So when we see all of these deities, right? We see all of these deities, and if you look at their eyes, this one is not too detailed, but if you look at a lot of their eyes might be like this. The eyes might be like this. The eyes might be like this. Because every eye movement is sending energy to that part of your body. And so this is the important part, because you were talking about the brain, and people don't know the true story of Santa Claus. The parts, like we have this corpus callosum, which is this thick cell membrane that connects the right and the left hemisphere brain together. But then on top of that, there's something called the anterior mid singular cortex. And that part is responsible for decision making. It's really responsible for life, like if we want to live or not, like the big decisions, like the decision to live or not to live, right? And so the more you use that, the bigger it gets. We know that people who are really overweight and have life challenges, problems in that area, their anterior singular mid cortex is extremely small. Whereas people who are goal driven, entrepreneurs, athletes, etc., whatever they accomplish, that anterior mid singular cortex is a lot bigger. But just by sending our eyes to these places and then breathing, that's where you actually send energy there. So like in yoga, we call it a drishi, and there's 9 of them. So like certain yoga postures, my eyes might be like here. Certain ones, they might be like here. But sometimes, and I wanted to say this on this, because a lot of times people would see like Indian people maybe doing a chant, gum ganapati namaha, gum ganapati namaha, and they'd be like, oh, they're conjuring up the devil. Oh, they're doing something that's demonic just because they don't understand the language and they see their eyes. But there's a science behind it, and that your eyes are so closely connected to the brain, more than the nose, more than the tasting, more than the feeling, and that when we send these parts, energy does go there. So I just wanted to put that out there, because you spoke about the eyes a lot in this conversation, and again, there's a lot of synchronicities. Whenever you and I talk, even the way that we talked, I don't know, a couple of days, was like, yo, I was thinking about you. Like, yeah, let's get this going on. So it's just interesting. some of the stuff that you brought up. The 7 ones.
I like how you put that too.
Oh, with the eyes. You talking about?
Obviously, I like how you just because so the last part I was gonna say with how we're able to see each other is you got is you got the different web servers. So you got Google, you got Amazon, you got Facebook. These are all different search engines. Each search engine is like a different part of the brain, and each religion is another dimension which has a deity that takes you through a different part of the brain. That's why we at Nature's Healer and Self-Reflection Center and Temple of Indigenous Science think it's good to study all Word of God. Think it's good to study all Bibles. Get a different outlook. Don't just take this book for granted or for the Word of God. Read them all and try to see what they have in common instead of what they have that can divide you. Because the biggest trick of the devil was, one, to get man to think he doesn't exist. The second biggest trick that he ever did was to divide us through reason of enlightenment. Why is it that the religious day on anywhere in the world is the most racist and segregated day of all? In America on Sunday, there are more people divided by religion than any other place in the world. You got really super anointed, egotistical Caucasians who go to all white churches and they praise Jesus in the name of hate. You got dignified, sanctified Black folks who go to all Black churches and do believe in this in hate. Not saying that they got to go to church together, because they don't. But what I mean is, in rhetoric, the word gospel means to love. And when it comes to love, love isn't something that you preach. Love is an outward
action.
It's an outward reflection of what is within. So in my opinion, to see churches divided by this title, that title, and this title is to not be united. And in love, all things are united. And I love the church, don't get me wrong. And church is on the comeback, because church 2024 moving forward is you, people. You are the body of the temple of God. Through this part of the nose and this part of the eyebrow, the real iPhone, going to the back of the dome, that connects the pineal gland to the hippocampus, is called the seat of the throne of Christ. And there, what sits on the mantle is whatever it is you glorify through word, action, and deed. And if you're bound by honor, truth, justice, and love, there more than likely is a good God sitting up here in this temple right here. And if you're twisted because of childhood drama of arrested psychological development, but you still got a good heart, the chances are there's still something good sitting up here. But if you just love hate and you love evil and that's just who you are, the chances are it's a devil sitting up here. And if you're like me and you were confused and didn't know what any of those was, then you got two of them sitting up here and they fighting to get a seat on the throne. So on that note, I'm practicing because I only need one. You can serve two masters. You know what I'm talking about? And that's coming from the Reverend. Reverend still battling. The Reverend still battling cardinality. The Reverend sees spandex and go, that looks like a dessert. No, that's clothes on a woman.
Yo, Tony, man, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you. I appreciate your words. I appreciate your honesty, your integrity, your vulnerability. I appreciate your foresight and your wisdom, your courage, just for coming up on the platform and speaking your truth. I wish that my internet access was better. This is the year where I plan on doing a lot more interviews, 2024. So I definitely got to get new internet now that I know that it's jacked up, because I just got a new one today. I know people can follow you. We got it down at the bottom at Tonify for Life on Instagram. Is there any other place where people could reach you?
Well, that's probably the best place to find me, because right now we're laying low key. And when I say
Gotcha.
we, I mean me and my higher self and my
Myself,
lower
mine.
self. I'm going through the process of reformation and transformation for transmutation and elevation. Um, and what that looks like is I'm restructuring my business and learning how to be honest and tell the truth to all people, including the government. That means taxes, invoices, QuickBooks, and how to work a back office to hire employees. And that means separating that identity from my personal self, because I'm a business and I make money, and my money don't belong to my business. And my money don't belong to the church either. The church's gonna have her own money, and that ain't my money neither. So I'm dealing with me, myself, and I right now, or as Jim Carrey would say, me, myself, and Irene. That was a good movie. And
Yeah.
as I come back from the separation of breaking down the ego, I will then be more available for people to get in tune with me. But for the rest of this year, it's tone only. I was given permission this year to put me above every and all things except God in my recovery. So I do God first, recovery, family, and I come before them. So this is the year to focus on me, because what I found out is if I don't have me, then myself will die and I can't live without him.
There you go. That's the perfect way to end it on. Beautiful people, Seven Circle community, I appreciate your supporting the channel. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Jonathan. That's Tony. I hope that all you beautiful people have a great day, great week, great month, great year, and a great life. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you hit the like button. Until next time. Peace.
Thank you.